Most advice that you get is useless, or at worst, even harmful. And yet we're bombarded with it constantly. Parents, friends, teachers, colleagues, strangers, influencers on the internet. How can you know who to listen to? I've been wrestling with this myself recently, and I've been feeling kind of angry about it. It frustrates me that I can't talk about my inner work with most people because most people don't do inner work. I can't talk about my business with most people because most people aren't trying to start a business. And don't even get me started on the crap that is just out there on the internet of people giving advice that's either useless or harmful. I really try my best to avoid consuming a lot of this and to avoid talking to people who I know aren't helpful. But sometimes I just get really tired and frustrated. And I've discovered that feeling these angry feelings is very helpful. This anger is part of growing up and accepting and realizing that the world does not change itself to be how you want it to be. So it's up to you to selfishly prioritize what's beneficial for you while still maintaining your integrity and your other wise values. And that's not easy to do. When we were children, we had to rely on others to tell us how the world works. Functional or dysfunctional, we absorbed usually our parents' worldview, and that was what we got and how we had to try and face the world. As adults, now we have to take a crucial step into maturity and start deciding what is actually functional and dysfunctional for ourselves, and basing that decision off of our own direct experience trying it out. And when you come to do this, you'll realize that most people give awful advice. So, as someone who cares about healing and growing, how can you know if someone is going to give you useful or not very useful advice? How can you differentiate between what is good and bad advice? Well, here are some of my thoughts on that. And as a quick aside before we begin, I am well aware of the irony of giving you advice about not taking advice from most people. But this is where you need to step in and decide whether I'm helpful or if I'm full of shit, and that's up to you. So how can you know if you should be taking advice from someone? Well, essentially it boils down to this. Are they living the life you'd want to live? If someone has done the things that you want to do, then it follows logically that if you do a similar version of that and tailor it to yourself, then you should expect to get similar results. And the opposite of this is true too. If someone isn't living the life that you want, then you shouldn't copy the things that they say and do. Now, this isn't a perfect benchmark, as I'll come to later, but it is a very good place to start. And here's why. Someone who has already achieved the life that you want to create for yourself knows exactly what it takes to do that. They know firsthand the challenges they had to overcome, the beliefs they had to cultivate, the actions that they had to take. And this direct experience gives them the authority to speak about how it can be done. And assuming they're telling the truth, if you then listen to that and tailor it to your own situation, then you should be able to replicate it within your own life. On the other hand, someone who hasn't created a life that you would want to live doesn't know what it takes to create the life that you do. All they can give you is their own projections, their fears and their regrets, and their beliefs and actions that do not give you the outcome that you're looking for. And this often looks like people who say, oh, don't do that, it's too risky, or people who are too negative about your ideas and things you might aspire to be wanting to do. And you simply cannot listen to this, even if these people do genuinely care about you and mean you well. And that brings me to the first caveat I have about my suggestion that you should listen to people who have built the life that you want to create for yourself. You need to ask yourself whenever you're taking advice, does this person actually care about me? Your mother might be projecting her own fears when she tells you that it's too risky for you to quit your job and start your own business. But there is genuine concern and care in what she's saying. She wants you to succeed. She's just projecting her own fear of failure onto you. You can still listen to what she says and appreciate it and acknowledge it. And you can use this concern that other people might have to really double check that you have done the due diligence and that you are taking as many precautions as you can to minimize the risk of whatever decision you're trying to make. And once you've done that, let it go. Even people with the best of intentions can inadvertently sabotage what you're trying to do because they are lumping their own projections, their own fear, their own regret onto you. And you're going to have enough of that when you're making a big life decision. You don't need to carry theirs as well. And on the flip side, someone who has created the life that you want to live might not give a shit about you. In fact, unless you know them personally, they probably don't. And in this instance, you've got to be really careful about the motivations behind why they're giving their advice. And I'll give you a hint, it's always selfish. Successful people didn't become successful by being really selfless. So ask yourself, how will they gain from me following their advice? Do they get a monetary benefit, a status benefit? Do they get off on trying to control you? You really got to investigate this. And just because something is selfish, that doesn't mean it's wrong or bad. A successful person might create a brilliant course outlining exactly the steps that he took to become successful. And then if you buy that course, then he gets a monetary benefit, but you also benefit because you get some brilliant information. But if the course is crap, then you've just been scammed. So it's up to you to really do your due diligence and figure that out. And that really brings me to my next caveat. Appearances are often deceiving. Our brains are always looking for the easiest and quickest way to understand something. We take in so much information all the time, every single day, that if we actually had to process it all individually, we wouldn't even be able to leave the house. And so our brain takes shortcuts. And one of those shortcuts is assuming that appearance equals reality. When our mind sees a person who's successful and is in great shape and says that they're happy, our mind goes, "Oh, look, they look like they're successful and happy, therefore they must be." Because that's the easiest thing to do. That's the appearance. But this is often wrong. And the reason why it's often wrong is that you cannot know another person's experience. Someone with six-pack abs might appear very happy, but there is an enormous amount of self-restraint required to get a body like that. Someone worth hundreds of millions of dollars might say that they're happy and might show off their wealth, but they had to sacrifice everything to get that kind of money. How someone chooses to show how they are as their appearance is often very different to the day-to-day reality and the difficult choices that they had to make in order to get to where they are. So be careful that your idea of your ideal life isn't actually a fantasy of what it should be, and that you're actually unaware of what the real cost of trying to achieve that actually is. And then finally, you can take all the advice in the world, but ultimately you need to decide what works for you. Even good advice can come to you at the wrong time, and in that instance, it's bad advice because it is not helpful for your current situation. Ultimately, the way to learn how you can decide whether you should or shouldn't take advice is to learn to trust yourself. If you can cultivate the self-awareness to really feel what's going on for you right now, and then be able to see if what someone else is saying resonates with that, if it rings true for you, or if you have this feeling that something's not quite right, then you're going to be in pretty good shape. Because your decisions are ultimately yours, no matter what anybody else advises. And if you can develop really solid self-trust and really solid self-awareness, then you can go about life hearing whatever you're going to hear and disregarding almost all of it because you know what is true for you. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit like and subscribe for more content like this. Leave a comment down below on some weird advice that you've gotten or how you like to make decisions. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again soon.